Hello and welcome to Alexander Technique London. My name's Adrian and today we're going to be discussing sitting and standing in the Alexander Technique, how to do it and why we do it. So many people are kind of aware that the Alexander Technique has something to say on posture and sitting and standing, and probably think we do sitting and standing to show you how to do it correctly, the correct way to sit and stand. And that isn't actually the reason why we do it. Don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. That does come into it. You will end up being able to sit more freely as well. But it's kind of interesting how it came about, and we'll look into that and how to apply it. So the reason we do sitting and standing is because it's a vanilla flavoured movement that's just easy to show everyone, rather than it being something specific like like a yoga pose or playing a musical instrument. The Alexander Technique really applies to any physical activity, and we just need one, a vanilla flavoured one that everyone can do, and turns out it makes most people interfere. Now, going to sit is effectively the easy first half of a squat, and if you can't even do that, then you've got no chance of doing a full squat. And squatting is basically normal functional movement. So it shows there's some sort of interference patterns getting in the way of your functioning and coordination. Now, why sitting and standing? Well, in part because Alexander noticed that in that normal vanilla flavoured movement, nearly everyone was interfering. Also, when we teach in person with our hands-on guidance, it's something we can do very easily by guiding someone into movement, much more easily than, say, running after someone in running. I don't know how we even do it in swimming, frankly. So it's just practical at the end of the day. So what are we actually looking for? Well, we're not looking to do something correctly, but freely. And what do I mean by that? Basically, without reaction. Can you do something without changing your being, if you like? I can be here or here or here or here. It doesn't really matter. And we use sitting and standing for that because most people, when they go to sit, kind of turn it into a thing, particularly when they come back up and there's a lot of strain and effort. So their attitude towards it is making them interfere. But there's often two sort of miscoordinations that happen with going to sit. One, that you put your mind in the future already on the chair, so you have no idea what's happening during the process. And two, there's an habitual miscoordination where people pull on their neck, and that shortens the neck, and it actually kind of generally just mucks up the balance coordination. So you kind of see this kind of thing, and usually kind of a bit of a slump as well. And people just arrive in a slump and don't know really what to do about it. So what we want instead is to reframe what we think of sitting as going to squat and failing. Why fail? Because a horizontal surface stops you getting any lower. So you really want to ensure that you're not pulling on your neck as you do it. So you can put a hand on the back of your neck to remind you to not pull that, and so you can sense whether you are or not. So you always want this sense of rotation forward of the head over the joint here, the atlanto-occipital joint, through here. Keep that going. It's what we call head forward and up. That's the classic phrase in the Alexander Technique. Up, being up towards the ceiling, forward, this rotation forward. And see if you can keep that coordination as you go as if to squat till you can't get any lower. Then you hinge back, and then you find you're still stood up. What do I mean by that? Well, basically, the underside of your pelvis, it's got a curve like that and 2 points. Those 2 points, you can feel the bony part of your bottom effectively act as new heels for your torso. And the relationship between where your spine meets your pelvis is unchanged in sitting and standing. So for the torso and your spine, sitting is the same as standing. So your legs get a rest, but you're just as active in the torso and the spine. Although what makes sitting harder is because we're a little more stable, because we haven't got the legs in play in the same way, we're not quite as wobbly. And I think we like that mobility, the freedom. I think that's where people struggle and stiffen up a bit. So you want to remind yourself that you're still quite mobile. Now, coming to stand, if you go the reverse way, what most people do is they start trying to stand before it's possible, and then they put effort in. You can see the pulling on the neck, and then when they go to actually finally stand, they've built in loads of tension. So they're trying to stand with additional tension. So what you want to do is hinge forward until you think you could stand. Don't think of standing, but just hinge forward until you notice a new availability arises. You get to a certain point where your legs feel engaged, and at that point you can push the heels into the ground and come up. So if I do that again, you notice I take the same pathway back down as I went up. Hinge forward until you think you can stand. Recognise that moment. That's when you can stand. You don't think of standing until then. So at this point, or this point, I'm not thinking of standing. I'm just complete neutral, complete neutral, complete neutral. Ah, now I could. Get used to that feeling, because you're going to need to recognise it quickly in reality, because you're not going to, in public, go like this, pause, and then come up. People will kind of observe you, think that's a little odd, and I wouldn't blame them for thinking. In reality, we want to just go with the flow. So I need to have no agenda, just swing forward, go, oh, now. And now I can come to standing freely. And that little bit of momentum is helpful. So if you do struggle to get up with your sitting and standing, should I say, do use a bit of momentum. You know, you can afford to throw yourself forward a bit, and that momentum will help. So throw myself forward, there we go. And that's nice and easy. Now, one thing that goes wrong when we go to sit is the chair acts as a big target for our brain, and our brain just kind of goes straight there. It cuts out the middle bit, the process. And in the Alexander technique, we're only interested in the process. If you get the process right, the end results are given. So the process is, can I be here, 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 and here, until I can't get any lower? And you go, fine, now I can hinge back. But your brain will, through habit as much as anything else, will jump ahead and put your bum on the chair before it actually is, mentally. So what you'll find, a lot of you might do this. I'm going great, and then you plot the last bit. So what you want to do is imagine the surface of the chair is a thin sheet of plate glass that will break if you put any weight on it. So what you do is you keep going, you go, mustn't break it. I just touch it. So now I'm just touching the surface of the chair very gently with the fleshy part of my backside, and then I come back up again. So you can try that. It negates that bit of jumping ahead and just kind of falling backwards a bit. So you just want to touch the surface of the chair and come back up. You can actually kind of do that over and over again. It's a nice little coordination in itself. It's the easy first half of the squat, as I say. Again, you can have your hand in the back of your neck to remind yourself to be head forward and up, as we say. And you can remind yourself to stay nicely back with the other hand. And just be here, touch, come back up. Be here. Be all the way through. Be here, be here. At any point, you should be able to stop, change direction. You know, even with like a millimetre to go, I could just stay there, or I could come back up, or I could touch, or I could release onto the chair and then come back. In control all the way. Now, another useful tip, because a lot of people will collapse a bit in the torso. To keep the torso nice and tall and long, if you reach up as high as you can, it's a bit of a trick, but it's a useful trick to get used to the, coordination. Nice and long in the torso. Stay nice and long in the torso. So I'm nice and long here, stay long, long, long up the spine, still long, long, long up the spine. And there we go. So I think that pretty much covers the basics of it. What you're really looking for, though, is not the correctness of it all, but the freedom within it. The inhibition, as we call in our technical language, The ability to stay neutral, calm, cool as a cucumber, not having an attitude towards it. And I often sort of talk about, with my clients, imagine having a glass of water, full glass of water, right up to the rim. And you're saying, can you move the glass of water around without spilling it, without disturbing it? Well, you're thinking your awareness in your nervous system is that water. Can I be neutral here, quiet here, quiet here, quiet throughout? The activity itself doesn't change me. And that's the real thing we're wanting to strengthen within the Alexander technique, and why sitting and standing is a metaphor for all movement. So you can apply that to any movement, that strengthening of that inhibition, that being nice and calm, cool and collected. All right, I hope you find that useful, and if you fancy getting in touch for private lessons, do so. I teach online and also here in North London. All right, take care. Bye.